What's up, guys? This is Courtney, one half of the Brothers of Deconstruction here, and I'm bringing you guys my second episode of my movie debate podcast. This is the podcast where I find a guest and we have hopefully civilized discourse on movie subjects. Um, Most of the guests are probably going to be friends of mine, which is great because we can get into arguments and no feelings are going to get hurt. So today I have Max, Johnny Boy, my good boy Jonathan. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, how's everybody doing?
All right, so it's been a couple of weeks since the first episode, which really wasn't a debate. It was a discussion on Infinity War, but just looking for people to actually join and work and everything like that, and a bunch of stuff that I'm not going to get into. But today's topic is going to be this should have been the first episode, but it's going to be Venom. It's going to be based on Venom and Spider-Man 3, and I guess we might end up talking about, what little we've seen of the Tom Hardy Venom movie, but that was the initial inspiration for the episode. We'll jump right into it. My stance on Venom and Spider-Man 3, Spider-Man 3 is a much maligned movie in the Spider-Man franchise and the Spider-Man film franchise. And, Topher Grace, the decision to cast him, Eric Foreman from That 70s Show, as Eddie Brock / Venom was hated, and it's still hated by a lot of fans. And I'm here to take the stance that wasn't all that bad of a casting decision. We'll get into that stuff a little bit later, but yeah, we're probably going to talk about the movie, but we're going to start out with me saying that Topher Grace being cast as Venom was not that bad of a decision. How do you feel about that, John?
I actually agree with you.
Okay.
I was not opposed to it, and from just the behind the scenes aspect and what they were talking about, on the way that they were going, they were trying to go for something like someone who I couldn't remember who would said it, one of the producers or the executive directors, but it's like, what if Peter went the other way with it when he got his powers?
Right.
Of course, everybody knows the route that, Spider-Man and Peter Parker takes to become Spider-Man, but, they wanted like a polar opposite, but yet a lot of similarities, which, I guess that will go into our debate about the physical form and the casting, but I thought it was a good cast.
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually exactly my reason why I don't think it was a bad casting choice, because the route that they wanted to take for the role was they wanted a mirror opposite of Peter. And
yeah, that's a perfect explanation. A mirror opposite.
yeah,
Exactly.
they wanted a mirror of Peter. So who better than, Tobey Maguire's playing Peter? Who better to get than Topher Grace to play Eddie Brock? And when it comes to how the role was played and everything like that, there's probably like some discussion to be had there. But for the most part, like based on that alone, that was a good casting choice. Now execution was a lot sloppy, but I'm here to say like firmly that Topher Grace's Eddie Brock it wasn't really all that bad. He was the mirror opposite of Peter, so of course he was obnoxious. He was annoying as shit. He was kind of you can tell he was kind of insecure, but he was an asshole. Like he was compensating for something. And so I really think that, Topher Grace played the role well. And, when it comes to, of course, they're like, oh, skinny Eric Foreman, this and that. Like, Topher Grace didn't put on massive amounts of muscle, but from at the time that he was shooting the movie, like, I remember him saying he put on like 15 or 20 pounds of muscle. Now, that's probably not going to be a whole big of a difference on, somebody with the wiry frame of Topher Grace. But, there's a shot when I'm putting this on YouTube, I obviously have to create a video to put on YouTube. I just can't upload audio straight to YouTube. But when I'm editing this, I'll probably add the screenshot of Topher on set, and he looks pretty big in that suit.
He does.
Yeah, and so I was like, is he massive? Is he like, Ronnie Coleman size? No, but you know,
Well, you've also got to put in, Venom has been depicted a lot of different ways
exactly.
visually from different artists, and if I could say like, every time people compare like comic book movies, to like the visual appearance,
Yeah.
if I were to put out, the look that they were going for, nailed probably, I would say that's John Romita Jr.'s Venom. He was a little leaner. He wasn't this big, like almost Hulk-like character. And again, that's why a lot of people have really exaggerated Venom's look. I mean, Venom is, there's even times where he's been on like Juggernaut level, where he's like 9 feet, 10 feet,
Yeah.
just big gargantuan guy. And, that's not something, at least at the time, that they were really trying to aspire for. Now it may be a little bit different, of course. Like I said, we're not trying to bring up the latest movie, but you've got a completely different, more, bigger Venom. But yeah, I mean, that's what I thought that they were going for.
Yeah, and I mean, even we'll get to the Tom Hardy version later, probably, but bringing up different iterations of the characters in the comics and everything like that. The funny thing about that is Tom Hardy's Venom. There's something weird about his Venom, at least at the end of that trailer, and I couldn't really put my finger on it. But then I have this group chat on Facebook, and one of my friends was like, "It looks like the McFarlane Venom," and I was like, "Nah, it looks like Ultimate Venom." Like the McFarlane Venom, like the eyes are a little bit more curled at the ends, and it has a little bit more edge on the mouth. But like this Tom Hardy Venom looks like the Ultimate Venom. Like I don't know if they're gonna have the white logo. It wouldn't really make sense if he hasn't come in contact with Spider-Man yet. But when it comes to talking about iterations, it looks like the Ultimate Venom. Now moving on to talking about Spider-Man 3 now. I knew the whole Topher Grace as cast as Venom thing probably wasn't gonna last a whole podcast length, because then it would be like 5 minutes long. But Spider-Man 3. My opinion of Spider-Man 3, now that we have the two Amazing Spider-Man movies and Spider-Man Homecoming, to talk about, like in the Spider-Man franchise of movies, Spider-Man 3 isn't that bad of a movie now that we have the Amazing Spider-Man movies to compare it to. Because I hate the Amazing Spider-Man movies with a passion.
Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan
either. And I hate Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man, but that can be another podcast discussion. At least like a shortened podcast discussion. But yeah, Spider-Man 3 isn't that bad of a movie. Like, to me, now whether or not you feel differently or the same, to me, it's a Sam Raimi movie through and through. But what we were expecting to get was different than what we got. And I think that's where the difference comes in of, the studio forcing him to put Venom in the movie, and, probably a couple of the other changes that were done in the film. But it's like, hey, it's still like the corny ass dancing scene with Peter, the emo Parker. Is it corny? Yeah, I'm not here to say that it's not, but at the end of the day, that's something you'd expect from Sam Raimi. Hell, didn't he have one of those musical numbers in Spider-Man 1 or 2? So
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
So it's like, I don't think it's that bad of a movie. I just really don't. I think it does get more hate than it deserves.
I think one of the reasons it gets more hate also is because, you're talking about that point in time,
yeah,
where part threes are very, very challenging to do. Like, I mean, this is still kind of, I don't know, I would consider this still in like the dawn of the superhero movie genre. You know,
Yeah.
there's not even 10 right now. And even then, the first Iron Man movie hasn't come out, which a lot of people consider like the next level in superhero movies. But, you know, this was a part three. A lot of people were thinking, okay, this is the final one. This is the final Spider-Man.
Yeah.
You know, so they had to just lay it all out there. And, you know, to his credit, like you were saying, Sam Raimi was not, you know, he had gone on the record plenty of times that he's just like, I wasn't the biggest Venom fan. I never read the comics, you know, where Venom was introduced. I had read everything up until, you know, probably like the mid 70s, I think.
Yeah.
You know, because I mean, at that time, Sam Raimi had become, you know, full-fledged adult. Not that adults don't read comics. I'm just saying he probably got into a lot of other things and stuff to keep up. So, you know, I mean, it was one of those things like studio execs pushing it because they think it's the last one. And, you know, we've heard it even from, you know, Sam's mouth that, you know, the kids want Venom. You know, the younger people want Venom. They want to see Venom. Even from the beginning, they're like, man, when are we going to get Venom? Right. So I think that was probably one of the things, like, as a filmmaker, that probably sucks, you know, to have this character you have literally know nothing about and then just have to put him in there.
Right.
And then not to mention, you know, with the other villains that are in that movie, because, I mean, as much as we want to talk about Venom, we can't ignore the other two villains that were in that movie.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. I think it is important to look at it from a director standpoint and just a creative standpoint. Like, hey, I don't like this character all that much. Like, a quick tangent example is Nova and James Gunn. Like, people want a Nova movie. People want Nova in the Guardians of the Galaxy movie. James Gunn has gone on Twitter saying he does not like the character of Nova. That's why he hasn't used them in film yet. So, you know, on one spectrum, it's like, hey, we want Nova. But on the other end, it's like, James Gunn probably isn't going to be the one to bring him some film. So, I mean, do we really want him? I mean, he's not going to do it. And he's not, just because fans want it doesn't mean he's going to do it. James Gunn definitely doesn't seem like the type to, you know, hear a bunch of requests online or from the fan base and be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go do that. Like, no, he's very much through and through like, hey, I'll do something if it fits the story that I want to tell.
If anything, like, for people like to think he probably has like dabbled in the idea and looked at it, but I mean, again, if from a creative standpoint, like you're saying, if you're not passionate about what you're kind of going for,
right,
you know, it's not going to be the best product because it's going to feel forced. And that's exactly what Venom was in this movie. It felt forced.
Yeah.
Like, looking back now.
Yeah, definitely. I think with Spider-Man 3, it's really, really weird because it could have been. The funny thing about it is that it's still one of the highest grossing movies in this franchise. Rightfully so. I mean, people see that Venom is going to be in the movie. Hell yeah, I'm a make sure I'm in that theater. Like, my brother took me to go see Spider-Man 3 in IMAX because it came out either on my birthday or like the day after or something like that back in 2007. And the funny thing about it is that, like, the news was at the screening, and one of my classmates in school said that I guess he was up and watching the news or something like that, and they were talking about like Spider-Man 3 in the screening, and they saw the footage of me talking about it on the news, which is hilarious because I definitely said that I really liked the movie.
Well, I can't lie either. I mean, I remember seeing it, you know, in 2007, and at that time, superhero movies did the midnight premieres. They weren't like doing Thursday night at 7, you know, trying to rake in that extra money. It was like at midnight, couldn't do it past 12:01.
Yeah. So
I remember catching that movie, and I did like it coming out. But again, I think, you know, it's one of those movies that it takes some rewatching to really get that, you know, okay, this is my general opinion of the movie.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you know, at that time, you're just getting to see Venom on the screen, so it's like, damn, that's cool.
Right.
but it wasn't something that people were like walking out, saying like, God, that was a total clusterfuck. Like, I mean, to compare it to another one, it wasn't like Green Lantern where you walked out like, what the fuck,
Right.
or what, So yeah, that was kind of the take. But of course, looking back now, compared to these other movies that have come out since, yeah, it's not the most hailed, but I don't think it was a bad movie per se.
Yeah. And yeah, it's funny. One of the guys that they did talk to did say that he hated it. I remember that. Um, so that was funny. But yeah, it's definitely one of those movies where if you get multiple viewings of it or watch it a couple of times, then the flaws go from little and they get bigger and bigger. Um, but comparative, and you don't want to compare it to the other movies because obviously, that was 10 years ago, 11 years ago, really. Um, and movies are made differently now, and there's a lot more stuff that goes into making these superhero movies now. But you know, I just don't hate Spider-Man 3 the way that I used to. I just don't. And I think Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2, kind of helped that along. But at the same time, it's is it a movie that I want to go and watch right now? No, probably not.
But it's a movie that probably, I mean, to me, and I don't know if you agree with me, but to me, if I'm flipping the channels and that's on, I'm not moving any channels until it's over.
Yeah,
If that's on FX before like a Spider-Man or a Marvel movie when they're doing all that,
Yeah.
I'll watch it.
Yeah, I can see that. I can definitely see that. It'll be. I can see. And I've been meaning to buy the Spider-Man trilogy Blu-ray collection, but I can see myself like just randomly putting in Spider-Man 3. If it's like, you know what, I want to watch Spider-Man. You know what, I want to watch Spider-Man 3. I want to see how the hell they poorly executed this again.
Well, there's a lot of things in it, and like I don't think, again, going back to your comparisons, it's not as bad as the two Mark Webb Spider-Man or Amazing Spider-Man movies. I mean, it's a bunch of collective scenes that are just like good. They're just kind of jumbled in together.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's the thing, is they just don't jumble in. They don't flow. It's just jumbling, and you're just going. I mean, not to say that movies aren't roller coasters, but I mean, this one was like going this way and like left and right and backwards almost, and you were just like, the flow wasn't, something. Because there's films that we've seen now that, stuff is going on all over the place, but the flow is just a little bit more key, where it's easier to follow.
Yeah.
And that's what didn't happen, because I mean, man, if we're gonna go like shooting down scenes, I mean, I don't know how much more, faithful and just like, fanboy giddy you can get, than when Peter's ripping off the symbiote.
Oh yeah. In that
the church tower, and then it just falls on Eddie.
Yeah.
And then it latches over.
Oh yeah. That entire scene of Eddie getting the symbiote and like seeing that Parker is Spider-Man and all that entire sequence, masterfully done. Like, and when you pull up YouTube videos talking about Spider-Man 3, a lot of people hate the fact that Eddie was in church. Like, obviously Eddie is whiny, he's annoying. Topher did a great job coming off like that. But people make note of the church scene, and he's like, pleading with God to kill Peter Parker, and I'm like, why is that a problem? That's totally in the character. He just got fired because he just got shown up, even though Peter wasn't himself. But still, he's at rock bottom. He's in church, and he's just like, look, if there's anything that you can do, kill Peter Parker.
And that makes a very valid point as like a villain's origins is like, even when the dudes in church, where like you get the themology of like being like holy and forgiving and
Yeah.
just accepting. This dude's asking for someone else to die,
Right.
which is just like, that's like, okay, what is the ultimate, like, you know, wish you wouldn't put on anybody? Well,
Right.
it's death. It's like no one's out here to do that. So
Right.
I mean, that in itself is like, man, this dude's in church praying for someone to die. That's just the villainy, like, is key right there.
Yeah, like what type of, you're right, because it makes you think, what type of turn, what, like how hard do you have to hit rock bottom? What type of situation has to put you in that state of mind to be like, look, pray to whatever God that you believe in, and it's like, look, I want you to kill this person. Like, you have to be, first of all, you have to be determined. You have to really want that person to die if you're gonna pray for their death. And then secondly, it's like, what's going through your head? Like, what's happened? And I mean, we see it in the movie, but what's happened that makes you hit that point where it's like, no, I want this person dead. I want his family dead. I want his house burned to the ground.
Well, and even then, like, Eddie's, actions in the movie, they're not malicious in any way. He's just wanting to be, at the top spot.
Yeah.
And it just so happens, unfortunately for him, Peter's got the symbiote, so we see a different side of Peter that's very vengeful and cocky and brash, so
Yeah.
it's completely different from the, the regular Peter that we know. And then, he's not. I just bring up another scene, like once he's basically being outed as, the photo being fake of Spider-Man, he's pleading with Peter, like, look, don't do this. Like, just, I'll leave on my own terms, but if you put me out this way, there's not going to be a paper that hires me.
Right.
So it's like, damn, he really took it to the edge on getting him humiliated. And, now it's like, you're asking yourself, that's the point. I mean, what point?
Yeah.
That's the point that you go to. You know?
You're right. You're right. And yeah, that's a good. And I just don't think Topher Grace gets enough credit actually for playing Eddie Brock that way. Like, yeah, he comes off that way, but again, like I said earlier, you can tell that it's coming from an insecure place. He wants to be that top dog, that top person. And so it's like, hey, no, please don't do this. This is gonna ruin me. Like, there won't be anybody that hires me after this. And obviously, Emo Parker is like, so?
Yeah.
It's like, do better.
Yeah, well, and I think, like, it's like we've been saying, the other reason that I think Topher gets, shit on in the role of Eddie and Venom is also because just being a victim of the circumstances that the film was in general.
Yeah.
There's just so many other things, and I mean, we're not discussing those, but I mean, there was a lot of other factors that were put into this film. There was the Goblin saga that was trying to be continued, and then there was the new villain of Sandman. So I mean, those issues kind of like, they didn't give you that time to, like, I want to say, care more for Eddie, or like get, kind of back Eddie in a way.
Yeah.
To where you were kind of rooting for him. Because I mean, even nowadays, there's times where we root for villains, because they're just as important as our heroes. They wouldn't, the hero wouldn't be the hero without, that great of a villain. So I think that was another reason that, he gets, shit on so much, is he wasn't given that time, and that spotlight really to roll through.
Yeah. No, I can agree with that. I think that's another problem that I have with Spider-Man 3, and it goes back to your point of things just being kind of cobbled together and it's like stitched together like a Frankenstein movie or something like that, and it's really hard to follow and it jumps all over the place. I think you remove Venom out of Spider-Man 3 and you put the new Goblin, as the main villain, and have Sandman be like a side protagonist, and Spider-Man 3 becomes a much better movie with more room to breathe.
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, and like I said, I know our focus here is Venom, and Topher Grace as Venom, but I mean, let's take it back to, go back a little further, even before Spider-Man 3 and the image of Spider-Man in the black suit was even put on. I mean, that Spider-Man 2 ended with, Harry basically finding out the truth, and, so we were like, oh, damn, it's going to go back to Goblin, and it's going to be Harry this time, which is
Yeah.
also, a good comic arc where Harry becomes a goblin and Harry gets addicted to pills, and he basically his downward spiral into insanity. But they kind of came out of nowhere with the black suit. But then again, I don't know about you, but everybody I know and I myself, like, I was hyped when I saw that black poster, and I was like, oh,
Oh
okay,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're going that route.
Yeah, absolutely. When they said that Venom was gonna be in the third Spider-Man movie, I was like, all right, yeah, let's go. Um, and we don't. This isn't a discussion just solely based on Venom. We can talk about Spider-Man 3, the movie, as well. Um, but yeah, when it was announced that Venom would be the villain and this and that, I was like, okay, yeah, I'll be there. That's cool.
Well, there was that. I mean, and like I said, I can't remember the order of it, but I know the first thing, what always comes out, again back in this time, even before trailers, was the poster, and
Yeah,
the poster of it raining and him on the church tower. I was like, oh man, so
yeah,
the black suit is going to be involved. Which, I mean, everybody, is finally, of course, if you're a comic book fan, okay, well, if that's happening, it's going into Venom, and then this was again in 2007, so just pictures are coming out.
right.
Not a lot of behind the scenes, no Twitter, no Facebook, no nothing like that. And then you see a picture of Thomas Hayden Church as the Sandman, and I'm like, well, he's got a green striped shirt on, his hair's red, and he's got brown pants. He looks like Sandman.
Yeah,
That'll work.
yeah,
That'll work. So that was one of those. You're like, all right, well, the Spider-Man suit always looks cool. The black suit looks cool. Everybody knows where Harry's going, and now you got this picture of Thomas Hayden Church as Spider-Man, and you're like, and they're gonna bring in Venom. I was like, well, this will be. Everyone thought. I guess if I could compare it hype-wise, this was like the kind of hype everyone was hyped about in 2012 for Avengers.
yeah,
Like, all right, this is gonna be the be-all, end-all of the superhero movies at that time.
yeah. I can definitely agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there was a lot of hype going into Spider-Man 3, a lot of hype, and it's it's really amazing when you look back on the movie and see how hard they fumbled it. And again, that comes from studio interference, forcing a character into the movie that a director doesn't really like or want in the movie, and it's I can even say Sandman doesn't even need to be Sandman nor Venom need to be in Spider-Man 3. You can do a movie centered on the relationship with Harry and him slowly becoming a new Goblin. And if you want to throw a secondary villain in the movie, you always got Dr. Connors right there, because people were waiting for the Lizard to
That's
pop
true.
up for so long, and it was like, yo, when are we gonna finally get the Lizard? And
Yeah.
I can't remember if they actually, I forget the actor's name, who played Dr. Connors, but I think for Spider-Man 4 they were gonna go with Vulture and Vulture, Black Cat, maybe Lizard. I'm not sure. I could be wrong, but
I remember seeing it was a few years ago. I remember seeing them release like keyframe like artwork of Vulture, like if they're for a Spider-Man 4. And then
yeah,
I do remember the Black Cat conversations. I remember they were going to make. I think it was John Malkovich was going to play the Vulture.
yeah. John
You know.
Malkovich is gonna play the Vulture, and um, I think Anne Hathaway was supposed to play Black Cat,
Yep.
but they were also gonna make, or no, not Black Cat. She was gonna play Felicia Hardy or something like that. But it was weird because it was like it was Anne Hathaway's character is primarily Black Cat, but in the movie they were gonna make her like Adrian Toomes' daughter or something like that.
Yes.
So that probably would have been a little weird, but yeah, for Spider-Man 3, I mean, if they were going to use two villains, you have two villains. And honestly, you have the two perfect villains if you want to, like, bring this story around and have it be super, super personal. You got Peter's best friend and his mentor, both becoming villains and terrorizing the city and doing all these things. You could have easily have just made Spider-Man 3 about the relationship between Peter and Dr. Connors and them becoming Goblin and Lizard respectively. You could have easily made the movie about that, and it would have been 10 times personal. And it probably would have been more, well, not probably, it definitely would have been more effective, but obviously we'll never know. Probably on Earth 17 somewhere, they're enjoying a very good Spider-Man 3 movie.
True, true. No, I think actually you bring up a really good point, like bringing in the Lizard, because, I mean, he was in Spider-Man 2, so everyone's like, all right, well, the Lizard, I mean, in my opinion, just as a Spider-Man fan, there's not a lot of meat to that. Like, he is not a very malice type of villain. I mean, it's sort of like a Frankenstein's monster. I mean, the guy just wants to, and I think if there's anything about the Mark Webb movies, now that we're touching on Lizard, if anything that's good about the movie, just from a story point of view, it was just the guy just wanted his arm back.
Yeah.
And that kind of turned into something else, which me kind of like my wheels turning, thinking creatively. If the Lizard was the subplot of that secondary villain behind, like, the Goblin, which is a more personal story, I mean, you're right, it would have been great. His mentor is now a monster that he just wants to help, but he can't. And then at the same time, his best friend is trying to kill him, because of the revelation of, Peter killing Norman or, all that. But I mean, again, it was kind of like hype died down because the way we get the reveal that Norman killed himself was from the butler.
Yeah.
I can't remember what his name was, but it was just like, so he just flat out told Harry, and it was like.
But the thing about the butler was that it's like, dude, you're just now waiting to tell Harry this. Like, you've seen this kid go into this downward spiral for I don't know how long, and you mean to tell me that you're just now saying, hey, I cleaned his wounds? And it was like random shit too. It was like, hey, I cleaned his wounds, they came from his own blade. Like, no, Spider-Man didn't kill him. And it was like, so you're an expert on this? What?
Yeah, it was just out of nowhere, man.
Yeah.
I mean, it really was. Like, it came out of nowhere because I know that, at that time, he came down asking for Harry's help, which I get it, coming a full circle redemption-wise, but, I mean, it was just, it was like an ill-timed, like, joke. It just fell flat. Like, looking at it even now, I'm remembering the scene, it's like, damn. That was not executed well at all.
Yeah, it really, really wasn't. There was a lot of stuff in the film that just wasn't executed great. Like the whole retconning Sandman to be Uncle Ben's killer, that was useless as hell.
That was very, I can't remember if I was more upset about that or if I was more upset about just the portrayal of how everything went down. But that was a different one too, man.
Yeah. But yeah, that was one of my questions. What else was weird about the film?
Oh man, I mean, hell, the introduction of Gwen. I mean, not only does he have to fight 3 villains, but now dude's in like this quasi love triangle.
Yeah, that was weird too, and it was like, especially the stuff with like Brock. Like the creepy stuff that they had Brock do. It was watching the film. you're looking at that scene and see it play out, and Brock is, telling Captain Stacy, like, hey, I love your daughter, I'm gonna marry her, or some shit like that. It was like, dude, you barely had it. I mean, granted, there are actual people who act like that,
Yeah.
but it was like, yo, too much juggling happening right now. To be quite honest, too much
Well,
juggling.
I think they were. I think if I can step in their shoes and think what they were going for, again, they're trying to get that polar opposite of
Yeah,
Peter. It's like, well, if Peter has Mary Jane, Brock's got to have Gwen, or he's got to pine for Gwen, but he's not going to do it in the same way that Peter would, where Peter, waited, for 2 movies to finally tell Mary Jane he loves her and, do the honest thing and be with her. Brock's that type of dude, like, oh yeah, I like her. That's me, yeah,
yeah,
kind of deal. So I don't know. I mean, like I said, I'm not trying to defend them. I'm just trying to get in their mind and see, what they would be thinking, or, because there's got to be, I don't know, there had to be some person on that cutting room floor be like, guys, this is what we're releasing out, like,
yeah. I
you
would
know.
love to be the fly on the wall during one of those discussions where they're really like deciding, like, hey, this is what we're going with, this is what we're releasing, and you have to wonder what the person who's like editing the film, or one of the executive producers, somebody in this group has to be like, this is gonna be a fucking train wreck.
Yeah.
Like, cause
But I think at that point, I don't think creatively that's probably what they were going for. I think it was just be like, man, this is going to be a train wreck. But then whoever was, next to him was like, but it's going to make a lot of money on opening weekend,
mm,
So it was like at that point, you know, the dollar outbeat, the creativity side of it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, I can see that. But yeah, I just don't. I don't hate Spider-Man 3 as much as I used to. I used to hate that film. But, then we got the Mark Webb series, and that can be a whole other discussion in and of itself.
Yeah.
Um,
While I still appreciate those movies for being Spider-Man movies and getting like a different perspective, when I look at the chain of like great Spider-Man movies to bad Spider-Man movies, that those are definitely on the bottom. But I know there's still some things on my end I can appreciate from them.
yeah, I can see that. I can see that. There's just a whole lot that I don't. Um, but I think for the the topic at hand, Spider-Man 3 is probably the fourth best Spider-Man movie. Maybe.
So are you talking for like what, like go from number one to to Spider-Man 3 at number 4?
I'd put. I'll put Homecoming at one for right now, just because it's been so long since I've watched Spider-Man 2, and I don't want to vote it number one just simply based on nostalgia, because there just might be things in that movie that don't hold up for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll go Homecoming 1, Spider-Man 2 at number 2. Um, I can put the first Spider-Man at number 3, and then I can have Spider-Man 3 at number 4, because Amazing Spider-Man 2 is definitely 6.
Yeah.
And then Amazing Spider-Man is 5. Like, it took me. I hated the first Amazing Spider-Man so much. It took me. When did Amazing Spider-Man 2 come out? 2014.
Yes. Yeah, it did.
Do you know that I literally just watched Amazing Spider-Man 2 maybe 2 months ago?
Really?
Yes.
So you didn't even catch it in the movie
I
theaters?
didn't. I actively avoided that shit in the movie
Wow.
theaters, because that's how much I hated the first Amazing Spider-Man, and then everything coming out about the sequel, from Jamie Foxx's Max Dillon being like a Spider-Man fanboy and obsessed with him, and the look that they gave the character, to all this extra stuff, and it was like, yo, no, I'm not doing this. I'm not.
It
And
was sort of like Spider-Man 3 all over again, just with different characters.
yeah,
Because
yeah,
you had the Goblin thing just out of nowhere,
yeah,
and then, you had two other characters who just got, they were just there for, I guess, for extra visuals. I mean, I would definitely have to put the only Spider-Man movie I walked out of where I was really disappointed was the first one,
okay,
because it was just there were just a lot of decisions Peter was making that I was like, man, just story wise, that doesn't fall into Peter for me.
now this is the first Amazing Spider-Man or the first Raimi Spider-Man movie?
No, the first Amazing Spider-Man.
Okay.
Just the whole thing of, um, I just some of the antics that he was doing. I know a lot of people give like those movies credit because you had a more like, kind of in your face, like cocky Spider-Man when
And
he's
that's
Spider-Man.
exactly what I fucking
But I
hated
mean,
about it.
that really didn't do it for me. And then of course, like the choices he was making of being with Gwen or like trying to be with Gwen. I mean, I really can't even remember it that much.
Yeah.
But it was just, oh man, it wasn't.
Yeah, no,
it wasn't what I was digging.
Yeah,
like, at all.
I didn't see the first Amazing Spider-Man in theaters either, and it was funny because one of my boys who was actually we graduated from high school together. We roomed in college the first 2 years together. When the first Amazing Spider-Man came out, it was during the summer, so we had first Amazing Spider-Man came out in 2012.
Yep, it came out the same year as Avengers.
Yeah. So we had already graduated, I think, by then. And I just hadn't gotten around to going to see it in theaters. Because even though I hated the suit, I was like, you know what? I'm going to still give it a chance, even though I hate the way this fucking suit looks. And the story doesn't really look like it's all that great. You know what? I'm going to give it a chance. I'm going to probably go see it. Because I tell anybody, I'm a Spider-Man fan. I grew up on the 90s Spider-Man cartoon. I never really got into the Spider-Man comics when I was growing up. But through and through, my Spider-Man was the 90s Spider-Man.
Yeah, same for me. Yeah, because I was probably like 7 or 8 years old when the animated series came out, and that was my go-to.
Yeah.
Like even before, like that's how I learned about the comic continuity.
Yeah.
Because they were adapting stuff like literally out of the comics themselves.
Yeah. Which is why I love those 90s cartoons, but that's another discussion.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I was like, you know what? I'm going to go see it. And he told me, he was like, don't see it because it's trash. And I was like, oh, okay. All right then. I'm not going to go see it. Because
go ahead.
No, I'm the type of viewer that, at least now, very much so now, but a trailer sells me on the movie. If a trailer does not completely sell me on the movie, then that's when I let reviews dictate whether or not I'm gonna go see the movie. Like, I'm 100% behind going to see for yourself, but there's sometimes where it's like, nah, I would much rather stay home or go see another movie that I know more than likely I'm gonna enjoy, and won't leave completely disappointed or upset by. Like, if you got, let's say, what movie can I use as an example?
Example for something that you were like hyped up about and that totally disappointed you?
No, a movie that the trailer didn't really sell me on, but then I went and saw it because of reviews on the movie. I can't think of a movie, but let's just say, for whatever reason, The Nice Guys. Even though when I saw that trailer, I knew I was going to go see that movie. Let's say The Nice Guys comes out, see the trailer, doesn't really quite sell me on the movie. So I'm like, okay, the movie comes out, I'm watching reviews here and there on YouTube, and people are saying, "Oh, it's a funny movie. You should go see it. This and that." So I'll be like, "Okay, cool. I'll go see it." Now, if the Nice Guys hadn't sold me on a trailer, and I was watching reviews, and people was like, "Nope, it's terrible. Save your money. Go see this movie that came out around the same time." I'd be like, "Guess I'm not seeing the Nice Guys." I'm very much a go see it for yourself type of movie goer, but if a trailer does not sell me on a movie, then that's when I let other opinions sway whether or not I'm gonna go see it. That's generally the only time that I let that happen.
See, and I like to think I'm a little of the same. Trailers definitely sell me, but I'm more, trailers they're very. It's easy for a trailer to sell you. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I get hyped up on a press release or a photo. It's like, oh, okay, this
Yeah.
is what they're doing, but that's the that's the beauty of trailers is they're just supposed to bring you in. It's not something where they're gonna spill out the whole story, because there's been a lot of movies, where I've gone in like super super hyped and then walked out and I'm just like, man, that was like totally not what I expected.
Yeah.
Spider-Man 3 being one of them, because that trailer was hype. I mean, that
Yeah.
movie, like, seriously, it looked like the be all end all,
Yeah.
of superhero movies, and totally is not the case. Now that we've seen it in history. So I mean, it. A part of me just coming from a comic book, fan's perspective, 50% of the win is, just getting to see the characters on the big screen.
Yeah.
But I think I usually hold judgment until after I've seen it, and I'm kind of a get your own opinion for yourself thing. Because there's been, I mean, that's the thing, we're talking about Spider-Man 3, and a lot of people just like to consider it like one of the worst bombs ever, but trust me, there's a lot worse. People aren't thinking about it right now, but there's been, the Jonah Hex movie, the Green Lantern movie, the George Clooney Batman, like, there's worse ones out there.
It's funny that you bring up the Jonah Hex movie because, well, one, I watched it online when it came out. I didn't think it was all that bad, but the funny thing is that, generally speaking, Jonah Hex is considered a terribly made movie. But it's funny because nobody remembers that Jonah Hex is a movie.
Not a lot of people do. Like, I honestly haven't even sat through the whole thing. Like, I think I caught glimpses of it when it was on, like, HBO. But I have not, like, legit sat down and saw the whole movie.
Yeah, and it's funny because when you think about it, like, just imagine. You have Jonah Hex that nobody remembers. Josh Brolin starred as Jonah Hex. Guess who was if he wasn't the main villain, he was one of the main villains. Michael Fassbender was in Jonah Hex.
Yeah, wasn't John Malkovich in Jonah Hex too?
Yes.
Yeah. That's a pretty lit cast.
Yeah, it's like you have Josh Brolin, Michael Fassbender, and I'm assuming one of his early Hollywood roles, because I think his first role was whatever role in 300 that he got. At least his first Hollywood role. I'm sure he was doing stage acting or whatever over in the.
We'll just say pre-Magneto.
Yeah, his pre-Magneto role, and John Malkovich, and it's like, nobody remembers this movie is a thing, because that's how critically panned it was.
Well, I think even before it was critically panned, it was just not. I don't think it was even promoted very well.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm really not sure why, but nowadays you see, the promotions just go, crazy for these superhero movies. They're like, all right, well, we're doing it in this tie-in comic, that's gonna go there, or we've got this new action figure that's coming out to correlate with the movie, and you didn't get any of that with Jonah Hex. Like, I don't remember seeing like action figures be released, or something worth talking about, or a comic event, which I don't know how DC would have been able to wrap, the whole DC universe on Jonah Hex. But hey, it's like, look, whatever we can do to get more eyes on the movie, because it just wasn't. I don't think it was even promoted that well.
Yeah, probably wasn't. I don't remember much of the promotion. But that was before around that time, that was before I really, and I think the internet has helped out a lot with that, but I think that was before I really had my ear to the ground and was paying attention to that stuff. Um, because, I just don't remember too much of the promotion for
Yeah.
Jonah Hex. And even with Green Lantern, uh, that's another discussion because I'll probably talk to my brother about that one because he's a I won't say a big Green Lantern fan, but then again I don't want to speak for him. But I knew there was a Green Lantern when I was little. And this is coming from a person that didn't have cable, so no, I wasn't watching Justice League, the cartoon series. But when I was younger, I had heard of Green Lantern. Um, and around '08, the '07, '08 writer strike, my
I think that was it. Yeah.
my brother and I had come up with the grand idea we were going to become mercenary writers and basically try to write a Green Lantern movie. Um, and it was hilarious when they come out with the Green Lantern movie. Now I'm around 2011, I'm much more familiar with Green Lantern, or 2010. I can't remember when that movie came out.
2011. Yeah.
But
I think it came out in 2011.
Yeah, I think so.
I'm pretty sure.
Because that was supposed to be the original movie that kicked off the DC universe.
Mm-hmm.
But it was funny talking to him about it because the news and set pictures and all this stuff, and it was like, hey, Ryan Reynolds, the suit is gonna be CG, and he hated the idea of the suit being CG. But I was like, well, I mean, you got to think about it. It's an alien. Like, yeah, the ring creates the suit or whatever like that. But in this instance of what they're going with, it's an alien suit. Like, why wouldn't it be CG? When it comes down to it, it's a terrible decision because it didn't look good at all. It looked very much CG.
Yeah, I agree. And I think one of the other things is, I wouldn't say it's because it was a CG suit, because, I mean, God, we see plenty of CG things. I mean, just to throw reference out there, I mean, come on, Avengers Infinity War, like, man, at least 75% of that movie is all CG.
Yeah, that's
like,
true.
all CG. So, I don't think I was hyped up about it as being a CG suit. I just think the design of it, like, just being so,
plain.
I want to say, like, organic, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, it just, I don't know, like, the Green Lantern costume, it to me, it has more of, like, a straight line formed, like, it's supposed to look like a space cop kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that. It was more like everything was real organic. Like, it reminded me of, like, the Alien, like, Covenant movies where everything's, like, very, like, rib cages are showing and, like, muscle, like, definition. I don't know. It was just different to me.
Yeah. No, you're right. You're right. Speaking of, tying this back to Spider-Man 3 and Venom, what do you think of the actual black suit design for the symbiote suit design for Spider-Man and the symbiote suit design for Venom? Now, again,
I love it. It's still one of my favorite things from the movie.
Yeah. Now,
like, it is.
It's obviously I like the Venom suit because even though it's not like straight up, what we're used to, but again, if we're going for Venom being a mirror of Spider-Man, it's a crooked, it's a disjointed version of that suit. So why wouldn't it, why would it have a white spider emblem on it? Why wouldn't it have like the webbing on the suit because it's based on Spider-Man suit?
Yeah. Well, even then, it was a different design. I liked the way it wasn't like the goo was like covering him, like, and always covering him. It felt like the goo like soaked itself within the cloth of the suit, and that's why it looked like a cloth suit, just black.
Yeah. I think the only design choice that I think they could have done better with for Venom was not giving him the tongue.
True.
Because that was a
And
really weird look.
yes, I agree. Well, I think one of the things you were actually going back to it when people were talking about, not to go into another direction, but you were just talking about like Tom Hardy's look and people saying that that's very more McFarlane.
Yeah.
But if a true fan will actually know that Venom's first appearance, he didn't have like sharp fang looking teeth. He
Yeah.
actually had like a Joker type smile. Like
Yeah.
if you go back to the first panel where like he beats down on Black Cat and she thinks that that it's Peter in the suit, and then all of a sudden like you see this big old grin.
Yeah.
Like that was like a straight teeth smile.
Yeah,
like
it was.
Those fangs didn't, the fangs and everything really didn't come in until like Eric Larson was drawing some of those designs, and he added the long tongue.
Yeah.
And then the green saliva, like the neon green saliva that everybody's like familiar with now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just thought I'd point that out. I remember you talking about that. But I thought it was all good except that tongue, because it was just like, all right, that's kind of coming out of nowhere. But had it just been like sharp teeth, that would have been a little bit more cooler.
Yeah, I think you're right, because when, again, me just jumping on the opportunity, I never did finish it or really start it, but after Spider-Man 3 had come out, they killed him in the film, but it was weird because they were talking about developing a Venom movie, and it was like, I remember being on IGN's boards in the movie section, like discussing Spider-Man 3, and it was like, no, there's a possible way that Eddie could have lived and this and that, and it was funny because I was like, okay, well, look, I'm gonna go see what type of story I can come up with for a Venom movie. And so I went out and I bought the Birth of Venom trade paperback that basically collected all those issues where Eddie got the symbiote. I think it was a few issues before with Peter with the black suit, and then Eddie got the symbiote, and then basically him getting arrested, getting shipped off to I forget what jail, what island it is in New York that there's a jail on or something like that.
Rikers.
Yeah, Rikers. I think he got sent to Rikers. I don't want to say he got sent cross country, but maybe he did. But it's basically like a road trip of him. It might be Rikers, but it was like, hey, I need to get back to New York and get back to Spider-Man. And it was really interesting reading that because again, growing up, Venom, I like the character of Venom from the cartoon. Like that's one of my favorite characters. And then as I looked more into the character, it was like, yo, he's really like, and the Birth of Venom is the perfect example to go back to, because he really is like an anti-hero. And it's like, there was one point in the book where he's making his way back. He stops at a diner at this truck stop, and the place gets robbed. Now he's like, look, I don't want to interfere. I'm not trying to hurt anybody. I'm just trying to get back to New York so I can kill Spider-Man and Peter Parker. And it was funny because it's like, okay, but what does he do? He stops the burglary. He may or may not have killed the robbers or whatever like that, but he's like, look, I didn't want to do it, but they're in our way. So they're stopping us from getting back to Parker. We need to get them out of our way. And I was like, that's a man with determination. I can respect that.
I agree. And that also just makes for a very unique villain, because, like the status quo for a lot of these villains is like, I want to punish everybody, because like humanity turned on me, so
right.
Now I'm going to turn on it. And then he just wanted to kill Spider-Man.
Right,
so,
exactly.
It wasn't about like taking over the world or getting all kinds of money or, things like that. He just, the symbiote had it out for Spider-Man.
He just wanted good old
Eddie
revenge.
had it out for Spider-Man.
He just wanted good old revenge and was, didn't want to bring anybody along for it. He was like, look, I'm tunnel vision on Spider-Man. Whoever blocks that has to get out of the way, and I will forcibly remove them out of the way if necessary. And that really made me gain a whole lot more appreciation for the character. Um, but yeah, you're right. The cover of the Birth of Venom is it's a stylized version, but I forget what issue it is. But it's when Venom is holding Spider-Man by basically by his collar, and he has that straight teeth grin. Like you're
Yeah.
right, that early Venom design didn't include the tongue. It was just straight up like a Joker smile,
Mm-hmm.
and I think the I think the Larson version of Venom is like the definitive look, at least for the suit, the eyes, the dripping saliva, this and that. But that's probably why the Spider-Man 3 suit was a little weird without the tongue. Because it was like, hey, this is just kind of odd, guys. Like, no, you give him a tongue, then yeah, that's great. I think when it comes to the Tom Hardy, now moving into the Tom Hardy movie, or what we've seen so far, because we've kind of bounced all over the place. But hey, that's great. I love that type of rambling. Um, I don't. The first trailer for Tom Hardy's Venom did not sell me at all. Like that teaser trailer was terrible.
Yeah, I was very unimpressed.
It wasn't a good trailer at all. It didn't like I already didn't really have, surprisingly enough, because I'm a Venom fan. I mean, you're talking to a person with a Venom tattoo. But I didn't I wasn't really all that excited when they announced the Venom movie because it wasn't going to be connected. It seemingly isn't connected to the MCU. So I'm like, yo, how are we going to have a Venom movie without Spider-Man in it? Like, again, going back to when I was thinking of a story and I bought The Birth of Venom to actually create one for a script, that still involved him interacting with Spider-Man, but it was basically that road trip, that journey of him, making his way back to New York to basically stalk and mess with Spider-Man. But even then, it's like, hey, Spider-Man is the end goal. He's already met Spider-Man, what have you, whatever. So I wasn't already hyped. I didn't have any hype for it just solely based on the fact that this is just some random ass Eddie Brock movie. Um, but then, obviously when they cast Tom Hardy, I'm like, yeah, that's a great choice. But guys, as far as we know, this story isn't going to make any sense
Yeah.
because Spider-Man isn't in it. Like, I'm not saying Spider-Man has to be in a Venom movie because they could, and this is my theory, they're gonna be going with the ultimate version of Venom. Like, they're not creating him in the lab like they did the ultimate version, but they're blending the two stories together. They're gonna use the alienness of the Venom symbiote, or of the symbiotes in general, have it crash land on Earth, have it take over Eddie, this and that. But I think as far as like the look and everything like that is gonna be much more based on the ultimate Venom. Like it's gonna be probably in now you see a little bit of white streaking in that last shot when he like licks his tongue out and everything like that. You see a little bit of a white streak on that, but I'm still thinking it's probably gonna be like just an all black suit, or I don't want to say suit, but it's gonna be all black instead of black with the white spider emblem. But that first trailer didn't do anything, and then the second trailer came out where we got more of the effects, we got more of the the idea of what the story is gonna be about, and the portrayal that Hardy is gonna do, and I liked it compared to the first one, to the teaser trailer. The first official trailer for Venom, I like a whole lot better than the teaser trailer. I'm not entirely sure if I'm sold on it though. My dumb ass is still probably gonna buy tickets to it, but I'm still unsure about it. And I think I'm just gonna probably I think my dumb ass is probably just like, I'm a Venom fan. I can't help it. I need to go see it. Like, I'm not excited about it at all. I'm not happy that I know I'm gonna make this decision, but I've come to terms with it.
um, no, I kind of agree with you on the first teaser trailer. There was nothing visually there for me to kind of latch onto.
Yeah.
And even then, it was a real cryptic. It was the straight up definition of a teaser trailer. It really didn't give you much aside from just the V and then the eyes that it was going to be a Venom movie.
Yeah.
Second trailer though did get a lot more hyped. And what's crazy is I'm always like about visuals. So I mean that's one of the things is, all right, when are we gonna get that money shot of what he looks like?
Yeah.
As Venom, which they did not disappoint.
Yeah,
I do like this version. It looks more to that definitive Eric Larson, like just jaggedy teeth everywhere and tongue out Venom. He is definitely a more hulking, like, just the traps and just everything around kind of thing. But what kind of got me the most about the whole trailer is definitely Tom Hardy as Eddie Brock.
Yeah.
Because there's glimpses where he's just being like that annoying type of reporter, like he's the reporter that you don't want to be interviewed by because he knows stuff and everything like that.
And he's gonna call you out on it and ask you questions that you really don't.
Kind of what Eddie is. Yeah. And going back to the casting, Tom Hardy, he just, Brits are always doing a good job, man, when it comes to these superheroes. Like, I mean, there's a Brit right now playing Spiderman, and he's the best Spider-Man we've ever seen.
Right.
So, I am kind of wondering, like most of the world is, just how are they gonna be able to introduce Venom without having the Spider-Man, just that kind of saga in there. But I don't know. Everything in that second trailer did get me a little more, a little more hyped up. And visually, I know it's going to be, just catching to the eye, because even that one shot of just, going up when he's in that motorcycle up in the air and just the symbiote just, comes out and latches on and helps him. I mean, it's like, damn, it's, I guess you're getting a little bit more of what the symbiote is coming from in the comics, which is protects him, because even there's times where, he doesn't just have to become Venom to use the abilities. Like, there's times where he's just, using the symbiote to just latch out, and do something else. Yeah. And you're seeing that in the movie. So, I mean, that's going to be cool to see.
Yeah. I think one of the things from the full trailer, from the official trailer, that was weird for me is the effects on like the like it's still weird to me that Brock is using the symbiote without being completely enveloped by it, but the effects of him attacking the security guards that come to his apartment were really, really weird to me. I don't know what it was. It was like, arm tendril and back tendril, and it was like, guys, you could have kept this trailer a little bit longer to polish up those effects.
Yeah,
just a little bit. I don't know if it's supposed to look shiny like that. I mean, it is a symbiote, it is an alien, so it probably is supposed to look like that. But at the same time, it's like,
Well, another thing is, like, what trailers have done, like, recently is, when they show you something, that's not always the final product.
Right.
So, I mean, they do have a couple of months. I think the movie comes out in October, right?
Yeah, so they have plenty of time. They got a couple of months to fix up, because now, like I said, it's completely different from 2007's Venom because you didn't have as much internet backlash as you do now. Like, the trailer drops now and you got people on Twitter and be like, man, y'all need to work on this. I mean, look how many people went, crazy on Thanos' debut in the trailer, saying that he was like, oh, this man is soft pink, or he looks like,
I know people were like throwing comparisons to Sammy Sosa and stuff, and it was
Yeah,
like, man, y'all need to chill. It's just
yeah,
a trailer, you know.
yeah.
So,
And plus,
but
and
yeah,
even touching on the Thanos thing a bit, you're right. Like their trailers, like a lot of stuff that we see in teaser or like first trailers is undone. Is undone effects. They're not polished all the way yet, which is understandable. They're still working on the movie, but obviously they want to get fans excited, this and that. Although I will say, and this just comes from it being bad in the movie, the the third act fight in Black Panther between Killmonger and Panther, that was terrible CGI. I said that in my
yeah,
review. But
that
when
is.
they released the clip of that fight, I remember somebody posting it on Twitter and they were like, I hope to God this is not like the finished product in the movie because this looks absolutely terrible. I didn't watch it because at that time I was going on like a blackout. I wasn't really I had only watched the teaser trailer and the first trailer for Black Panther. I didn't watch anything else from Black Panther. I did the same thing with Infinity War. I mean, and they only released 2 trailers for Infinity War. But
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I'm not trying to watch anything else. But I caught a glimpse of it because on Twitter, um, videos automatically play. If you just view the tweet, you don't actually have to click on the video.
Oh damn.
You can view the tweet. But I clicked on the tweet because I just wanted to see what they were talking about. I didn't watch the whole clip, but I was like, maybe it's unpolished. Well, maybe it's just not finished yet. Ooh, but
Yeah, I just got Black Panther on Blu-ray, and one of the things that was just going through my mind was, that whole final fight scene is just a CGI fest because the vibranium thing is going through, so their suits are coming on and off and on and
yeah,
off, and it's like, man, it's a little bit too much.
yeah,
Like they should have just done two dudes in suits, just like legit, let's just say compared to the fight scene that Captain America has with Black Panther, at the airport,
yeah,
in Civil War. That was a straight just, boom, 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 filming and choreography where it could have been something like that. But hey, I get it. Again, that's our thing is going to unfinished CGI. Hell, if you want to get not even just shot, not even like just maybe shots or different, unpolished CGI, but there could be things in this Venom trailer that we saw that may not be in the movie. I know everybody was tripping on that final scene in the Avengers Infinity War trailer where
Every,
Hulk is running with the team, and
yeah,
we didn't even get that,
yeah,
like, at all. So, I mean, people are like, where was that scene at? It's like, well, look, it was just a trailer. It doesn't,
yeah,
doesn't constitute that it's going to be in the movie.
yeah. People should know that
Just,
by now.
yeah, just trying to hype you up.
Yeah, but I do love that they shot like fake scenes for they purposely misled with like certain scenes in the trailer, and
Oh, yeah.
even with Deadpool 2, we're not gonna get totally into Deadpool 2, but they've come out and said that they shot fake scenes for the trailer so spoilers wouldn't get out, which I think is really really interesting, and I wonder if more obviously those worked. It worked for Infinity War. It worked for Deadpool 2. I wonder if more studios start doing that, are they going to start getting more backlash about it? Because there's already, even with Amazing Spider-Man 2, I believe, and a couple of other trailers where it was like they were misled with the trailer thinking that something was going to be in it or something was going to happen and it didn't turn out that way, because I think that's a double-edged sword even in and of itself. Like, yeah, you want to mislead people so people can't guess what the ending is going to be, or spoilers don't get out and this and that. But at the same time, what if it's like, it depends on how it's executed, because if it's something like Drive where they make it look like it's like a straight up street racing movie or something like that, when it's really a character study and it's much more slowly paced, and it's like, no, I was misled, this movie is terrible, it was nothing like I thought it was going to be, versus Infinity War making you think that a bunch of these characters are fighting together when it's like, no, Hulk isn't in that movie, this scene doesn't even happen this way. So you don't find out that, spoilers if you haven't seen a movie that's been out almost a month now, everybody dies.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
first, if you're listening to this and you hadn't seen this movie, then shame on you.
right.
Because, yeah, for real.
Yeah. I
Like,
need to go see. I need to go see it again now that I think about it.
I know, right?
Um, but yeah, even with the originally talking about Thanos and undone CGI and things like that, it was weird to see that because see people reaction to it because I was like, guys, he clearly doesn't look all the way purple because that's lighting in that scene. Like I don't understand how people I I don't get it. Like even when it came down to X-Men Apocalypse, which I am not defending in any world,
But it was a lighting issue.
it when it came to like that first release screenshot of Apocalypse, because you could tell it was from when he went and got Magneto after Magneto killed all those guards for killing his family. It was like, yo, that's a purple light they're shining on him. Apocalypse isn't purple. It's a purple light that they're shining because you can see the reflection of the light. You can see that it wasn't. Now granted he might have been, some type of purple tinted or something like that. But you can definitely tell in that picture, and especially because of the saturation of it, that it was a purple light, which makes sense when you realize he's traveling with Psylocke.
Yeah, who's like generating a purple colored energy. So it's like,
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
yeah,
So when people were, I mean, the jokes were hilarious, but I was like, even through all the jokes, I was like, no, that's a purple light that's shining on him. Like he's not
yeah,
purple himself. That's just a purple light. But
yeah. Well, you
whatever.
know the internet. That's the beauty of the internet is it gets carried away
Yeah,
sometimes. But I mean, to go back to your thing, your question about whether studios will do that. I think when it comes to the superhero movies, I think because they're so heavily anticipated and people just want to see them like as soon as possible. It's one of those things that I think studios may take into effect because I know another thing that just this year studios are taking into effect or just I don't know who's behind it, but studios are going and letting everybody know, hey, look, don't spoil it for anybody.
yeah,
Don't get on social media, don't get on Twitter, don't talk about it. I mean, talk about how excited you are for it and how great you loved it, but don't spoil it for anybody. I mean, I work part time for a movie theater, and we've got more signs up now about like, hey, I know you love the movie, or I hope you love the movie, but as soon as you walk out of here, know that there's other people that are around that are going into the movie theater.
yeah,
So go home and discuss it, or, go do that. But, the whole Thanos demands your silence, we've got those walled up everywhere.
yeah,
And the same thing with Deadpool, and there's also warnings now about, Deadpool just like, hey, look, this is a superhero movie, but it ain't that type of superhero movie to take the fam to kind of thing. So
yeah,
I think movies are actually doing that more because, like I said, these superhero movies are so anticipated now. People just want to see them and then talk about them, and so that could be the case where they're like, well, to kind of put flip people on their ear, just keep them, or just catch them off guard. Let's release a trailer that has, maybe test footage.
yeah,
So because people now, I mean, like nowadays, again, you get the power of social media and people. They dissect these trailers, I mean, like that's pretty much what we're doing now with
right,
a past film. So, it makes sense to kind of do that from a studio's point of view.
yeah. No, I agree with that. It's just gonna
Yeah.
be interesting going forward, seeing what studios are gonna do. I want because you can even with the Venom trailer, the first trailer, when he was driving on the motorcycle and the car started flipping everywhere. It was like if you're savvy to movie stuff, you saw that and you're like, that's probably gonna be a CGI shot where the tendrils and symbiote are like flipping those cars over or something like that. Sure enough, in the official trailer, what is he doing? He's driving away on being chased on a motorcycle, and the symbiote grabs the wheel of the motorcycles and jerks them down, flipping the cars. And so, we get a lot of unfinished shots in trailers. Um, but going back to what originally started this, like it was, the effects just look very unpolished on him attacking the guards. But let's hope it looks a little bit better in the film. What do you think it's gonna do? We can basically start getting ready to wrap up now. But what do you think the Tom Hardy Venom movie is gonna do? I honestly don't think it's gonna turn out all that great simply because what I've heard about the story and how they're setting it up. I just don't know how it can work without Spider-Man and without being connected to the MCU. But that just might be me being biased towards the MCU. But I'm not
um,
entirely sure how it's gonna work. So I don't think
I,
it's gonna be all that great, but I'm still gonna go see it.
I think, yeah, I'm still gonna go see it for sure, just because like that's what I'm saying. That's sort of that's just my kind of personal obligation, just being a comic book fan, and knowing these characters and just wanting to see it, on screen. So I'm excited for it. I think at this time I'm really more excited on just not really knowing how it's going to turn out. Like at this point, I try to stay away from the spoilerish, the theories and all that stuff. I kind of just go in, I mean, I like to see the photos and stuff like that. I don't know how it's going to work out story wise. I think the reception of this is you will have, I want to say, core fans who are, biased, with the Spider-Man saga and just the Spider-Man franchise. They probably, I wouldn't say they'll shoot themselves in the foot, but it's like, if you go in already upset, or already kind of like feeling a certain type of way because Spider-Man's not in this, then you're almost kind of robbing yourself of the good time you might have. I think if you go in just, not really expecting the Venom that you see in Marvel Comics, but expecting some sort of it, you may come out a little bit happy. Um, I think that's what I'm thinking, because I mean, like I said, we've seen that there's not going to be that Spider-Man logo or the White Spider. We know that Tom Holland isn't going to be in it, and we know it's not connected to the cinematic universe. So I don't know. I'm kind of just expecting a loose adaptation. I just hope that there's some things that are just new and refreshing about it. I'm excited about Tom Hardy. Um, I think the movie will make money its opening weekend, of course, because all these superhero movies make money on opening weekend.
Yeah.
And I think they picked a good time too, because they didn't compete with any of these others in the summertime. I think October, there's not a lot of superhero stuff coming out in October, right? Like I'm
No, I don't think so. So it's a good spot,
yeah,
and it seems kind of appropriate for Venom. Just like the character, the look of the character, I can see it. I can see why they chose October. Once October starts coming around, people start getting ready for fall and Halloween. And
yeah. So you're gonna have scary characters, kids and comic fans are gonna be dressed up as Venom. So I mean, it is a good time. I hope it's promoted well. It seems like it's gonna get promoted well. It's got some stuff going on. I know the Marvel is the Venomverse and everything going on this year, and then bringing the symbiote back to Eddie. That's going to be something big hyped up either this summer or this fall. I'm not sure what you know the big comic event is, but I know Marvel's notorious for always doing that. To kind of push the movie. You know, so I don't know. I think it'll do good. It'll have a good opening weekend. Critically wise, I don't know, man. That's just up in the air right now for me.
yeah,
I hope it's good. I hope it is good. I mean, to be honest, this is the one thing, just as far as me speaking for myself, I hope that it does good, because one thing I would really like, which has not been done before, is I would like that version of Venom, or at least Tom Hardy's, Eddie Brock, to somehow, some way in these next phases, get to step in the cinematic universe. I'm a realist, so if it doesn't happen, I mean, yeah, that's fine. But a part of me is like, man, it'd be really cool to see Tom Hardy. If I really like this Eddie Brock and this Venom, it'd be really cool to be like, man, I hope that they can just find some way to form him in, into a Marvel Cinematic Universe Spider-Man movie
Yeah.
to be villain. That would be really cool. Like
Yeah.
Tom and Tom, I don't know. It looks like a good pair up because
No, you're
who's
right.
to say
I
at
agree.
that point, we'll see.
Yeah. I can completely agree with that. Like I said, I don't I do think it's gonna make money unless like it gets slammed by early reviews and word of mouth. But even then, I still think it's probably gonna have a decent like a decent opening weekend, just because of the character and the actor and shit like that. Critically, again, I'm not entirely sure what it's gonna do. I think it could end up being bad, just solely based on what they seem to be going with the story and all the rumors that we've heard and this and that. Um, but just like you said, it would be. I do hope it does well. I never hope for any comic book movie or any movie really in general to fail because I realize people put hard work into these films. Sometimes it just doesn't work out the way that they would like it to. But I hope that there's some type of way that Disney, starts going much more mature. And I'm not saying a hard R because Venom doesn't necessarily need a hard R.
Well, hey, answer me a question. I'm not sure if you knew, but is this Venom rated R?
I don't think it is.
Okay.
I think it's a PG-13 movie, but let's see. Like, let me scroll over real quick and try to.
Because that's one thing I do not know, actually, like, at all. I don't know if it's a PG-13 movie or I don't know if it was going for the hard R because, with the release of Deadpool and Logan, that is the norm now. Like, if it's not a Disney Marvel movie, it's a hard R, completely different, F-bomb, blood, gory kind of film.
Um, let's see. I don't. It also might not be rated yet, but something tells me this is gonna be PG-13. I wouldn't be.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if it came out as PG-13. I'm not seeing much.
Yeah, I'm looking now too. I don't see any ratings just yet.
Yeah, so it might just not be rated yet. But yeah, back to your point. I'd like to see this pairing because solely based on the money shot that we got at the end of the trailer, Tom Hardy's Venom looks way scary. Like, it would be amazing to see that interact with Tom Holland's Parker. I can imagine Tom Holland's Peter Parker and Spider-Man freaking the fuck out at the sight of this Venom. I can easily see that happening. I can easily see that happening, and I that's why I hope they end up connecting it to the Spider-Man films. But we still have to figure out what's going on with the Homecoming sequel because it takes place right after Avengers 4 and there's a theory or there's a suggestion that hey, they might have to push this movie back or Marvel might have to get Sony to push the movie back because it's probably going to spoil Avengers 4.
True.
That's again just like many other talking points in the podcast. That's another discussion to have, but that's going to be interesting as well because I'd love to see Holland's Spider-Man interact with Hardy's Venom, because I think it'll be really, really. I think it'll be kind of menacing, like it was in the cartoon. Because in the '90s cartoon, whenever Spidey, from what I remember, and it's been a while since I've done a marathon of it, probably a couple of years or so, but when I don't remember like Parker or Spidey, doing a whole lot of wisecracks against Venom. I remember him being very, very like, yo, I need to stop this guy, or Brock, what you're doing is crazy, like, no, don't do it, whatever. I don't remember him doing a lot of whole wisecracking, so I can easily see um, Holland Spidey maybe trying a wisecrack or two, or just like freaking out, and that's where the humor comes from. Because he's just like, what is that?
True. Well, the thing that I'm excited for is like the way I'm kind of like envisioning it, or like dream or fan casting, whatever you want to call it. It's just, I think that time frame, if we get to that point, it's going to be far along the road. For Tom Holland as Spider-Man.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think one of the things that they should definitely do, and I mean, if it was just up to me, Spider-Man has to hit that adulthood in his life, which we all know right now, Tom Holland isn't there yet.
Mm-hmm.
He's still in high school, Spider-Boy, kind of Spider-Man, Ditko,
Yeah.
So he's got time to progress on until, we see a full-fledged, at a college, Peter Parker. And I mean, the way that they're casting people in, superhero movies, I mean, they play these characters for like 10 years or so. So, I mean, we could legit be in 2025 or 2027, and we could finally see the Tom Holland and Tom Hardy, this is happening. Because,
Yeah.
Nobody ever thought that Spider-Man would even be in the Marvel Cinematic Universe in 2012, because you had the Avengers Part 1 and the Amazing Spider-Man, which were two different universes. And,
Yeah.
4 years later, boom, Spider-Man's in Civil War, and now he's in the third Avengers movie. So,
Yeah.
you never know, but, one can always hope. And, I mean, I'm sure somewhere down the line, the movie producers and the studio heads, they want it too, because I mean, they know that's going to bring in eyes, and who knows. I mean, honestly, I don't think either you or I would be disappointed if they brought Tom Hardy in, or if they just redid Venom, and if they did the true alien symbiote saga in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah.
I mean, who's to say that Spider-Man being on Titan, what if something latches on and then we're off that. There's so many things that could happen. So
you're absolutely right. That's a very good point. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. But yeah, I just wanted whether or not I didn't really know whether or not we were gonna agree or disagree on a whole lot of points. I just want this debate podcast to be not even really debating, like hardcore, like debating or arguing. It's just like I said, civilized discourse about movies in general. And so, I'm surprised you feel similarly to Venom or to Spider-Man 3 that I do, because I thought I was gonna easily like find somebody and they were gonna be like, oh, fuck Spider-Man 3, this and that and the third. And it was going to be like all right, let's go ahead, put the gloves on, get some light sparring in. But,
well, I think if anything, what kind of turned, what I think our mission, like not without having a mission, but just to say, I think what we accomplished, and I hope we accomplished, is just maybe whoever's hearing just gets a different opinion, because everybody always has that general consensus opinion of like, oh man, that movie was shit, or that movie was shit. But looking at all these other points that you and I have like just gone back and forth with, like tossing a ball, people are probably getting a different eye on it, and maybe it can expand on their opinion and help. I mean, you never know. I don't know about you, but I've kind of got a feeling to like reach in the DVD and see if the case and see if I have Spider-Man 3, and I might pop it in just from talking about it.
Yeah. I don't have it. I know my mom has it, but again, I was planning on buying the Blu-ray collection for the three movies anyway. I was gonna get around to it just so I can have Spider-Man 2. I mean, all three movies really, but
Hmm.
yeah, but it might just have to go back and watch, see if it's on Amazon or Hulu or something like that, and go back and check it out just to see what holds up, what opinions of mine change on it, what opinions stay the same, and this and that. So, um, yeah, I mean, we'll definitely be doing this again. Next or not, I don't even want to say next week. Depends on who I can get, and what time. I know we're doing this relatively late, but the next podcast topic, I'm not sure what it's gonna be just yet. Something might come out and might spur me on, or that just might be. I've already had a couple ideas in my head as we were doing this one, but we'll.
Or if anybody who's listening, if you're commenting or something, like what's something that you would want,
Yeah,
us to talk about.
yeah. I'm thinking just to keep it Spider-Man themed, because I've been seeing it, or I saw it quite a few times on Twitter pop up. It could be the whole who's the best Spider-Man debate.
That's a good
Um,
debate.
that's a pretty good one to have. Just now in my head, I was thinking of the director's cut of Daredevil versus the theatrical cut of Ben
That's
Affleck's
also a good
Daredevil.
debate. Yeah.
We can also go into Warner Brothers fumbling of their DC universe, and BVS and Justice League and everything like that. So there are quite a few movies, and I don't want this to be solely based on comic book movies. If there's like a film where it's like, hey, Pulp Fiction is shit, and it's like, I'm gonna have to disagree with you there, bro. So just movies in general. As long as uh, I have enough knowledge on whatever the topic is, I'm down to discuss it. So
I think Power Rangers is definitely one out. I'm worried that you didn't have that one on there.
you
Like, all I'll say is if you have a Power Rangers one, I want to get in on that.
okay? That'll probably be a very large debate or group discussion because obviously, seeing that my brother and I originally started this channel not solely to do Power Ranger stuff, but to we started out doing movie reviews and things like that, and then in the end we were like, let's start out just reviewing movies for right now until we start talking about Power Ranger stuff. But yeah, that's a very good one as well because I got some some hot takes for a whole lot of stuff. That's actually a segment that I've been thinking about doing for the channel.
Oh,
Basically,
man.
basically it's
Yeah.
just some short videos of like, hey, hot takes with Courtney, and really getting some people stirred up if I can get it out to enough people because, whew, hot takes, I've got them.
Yeah, I these last 2 years, honestly, like Power Rangers has just never been like in my agenda, honestly, since I want to say '96. Like I've just completely like refallen in love. It's of course due to the comic, but I mean, there's
Yeah,
tons of other things that we could talk about. We could talk about the show. We could talk about the movies.
yeah,
The good, the bad. Everything. But I mean, it's definitely they are in big conversation right now. They're definitely being talked a lot because there's a lot going on with Lord Hell, even down to the franchise and toys
yeah,
being
yeah. No,
on
you're
down.
you're right. So I have plenty of ideas and plenty of movies or film or TV shows rather or whatever from this medium to pull from to actually talk about on the podcast. So I'll find something, and then in a week or two maybe I'll have another one up. Yeah, I, there are plenty of things to talk about. So I'll find something for the next podcast. And so this is Courtney, one half of the Brothers Deconstruction. Um, signing off for the podcast, John.
Cool. Y'all have a good one. Thanks for listening.
And thanks for showing up, bud.
Oh, no, I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Alrighty. Peace out, guys. Talk to you later.